told your mother you were going to perform.
How you doing?
Good.
Good news on the road. Now what's next?
Construction?
Then next time Ben just says, fall out of the boat, I'm gonna help him along instead of pushing it back in.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's not over till it's over. People, they leave.
Chain themselves to trees or what, I don't know what, you know.
I can't get a picture of John.
Oh,
I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I gotta get a picture
Oh.
of John, and she can't know about it.
this is for Eric.
I'm like,
Money.
how is that gonna happen? And then I said,
Hey. Oh, yeah.
and
Allow
You
aliens?
had to pay him to show up.
Do we allow aliens in here?
Take a vote.
I was totally wrong. I hadn't even looked, because they
Retain
had
me.
it. I hadn't even looked ahead until I was one slide ahead and it was, whoa. At least I had. Well, congratulations. All this stuff down. It was
Oh,
the
coffee ready?
I did. It was, you know, and it really helped because I was
Mr. Weber, hello there.
right down.
Hello.
So it actually really.
Very dutiful of you to show up a week in advance. Oh, okay.
You're alone?
I can fill it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought it was better on that.
And then global health. No, Kathleen. Kathleen's a nurse. So, I mean, she's eager to do it. I mean, the woman is so prepared for these sessions.
Somebody else, John, somebody else hit that wall or did that just fall over? It's the fast one.
So we finally got a date to talk about. Well, the quiz is
Right in front.
right in the middle.
Yeah, right in front of the middle. Okay.
If oh, good. One place when she told me come about.
Okay.
Well, it's a Presbyterian church, so we can't put vodka in the water,
I got that, Steve.
much as we'd like to.
Yep.
And there's a lot of places that did it well. They end up at the other side of the house.
I'm glad I woke you up. Masha was sleeping at 2:15 and I had an existential issue. Okay, well, whether I would let her sleep and make her come down, or make her come down.
What you need is probably an armchair.
Oh, I don't know. She's Canadian, so she has a certain, I don't know.
Make sure that you don't hold that against it.
Now, you look in the backgrounds of a lot of people from Antrim, and there's Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, and Quebec for that matter.
I want to be able to see.
That's that's not the given, that's not the name. And I can remember that nickname.
In a mass outside of Beverly.
Another minute.
Sometimes.
We have a professional videographer.
My apologies if none of it works.
She has, you have more than a minute instruction, you got
No.
1 minute. Bill Nichols gave her 1 minute.
I think I found the on button.
Is that all you need?
That's all you need.
Just the opposite would be the other side. Very well in music.
Well, why don't we get started? It's exactly 3. I'm Steve Ullman. I have the honor of serving as the president of the Antrim Historical Society. We had a very successful session last month with the Antrim Fire Department. The weather was terrible, but the attendance was great. On June 24th, right here, we're hosting 3 pastors: Rick Davis, Charlie Boucher, I never know how to say his name, and Jan Howe, and they're going to talk about the history of their congregations and also their personal history involvement in pastoral work. July 4th is our Independence Day. August 19th, we're hoping to have Steve Sawyer, who knows a good deal about wind power. We're hoping, and if not, and it's not clear that he's going to be here. And I'm also, this man doesn't know, I'm thinking about inviting him, Jim Creighton, who's new to town. He's the supervisor of the checklist and has a really distinguished military record. He supervised elections in Afghanistan, which if you think about it is complicated. And then in September, of course, we have the Apple Crisp sale. And on October 21st, Robert Perot is going to come. He's going to talk about Franco-American history in Manchester and also in New Hampshire. I also want to call attention to our very active accession committee, which is headed up by Neil Brown. We have made enormous strides, and Barbara Black and Kathy Wassilus have made tremendous contributions also. And of course, Barbara and Kathy have put together a terrific World War I exhibition, which we hope to continue on November 11th with a celebration of the armistice. I also want you to know that we have docents, we have alleged experts in Antrim history who are sitting Saturday mornings over in the library, and we've had some out-of-town people with roots in Antrim who've come by. I also want to thank the library trustees for lighting up the second floor of the Historical Society room. The cabinets and are lit up beautifully, and we now have an outlet. And final announcements, Frank Gorga, who's a master photographer, and Kathy Wassilus have started a project photographing the barns of Antrim, which I think will be lovely. Let me introduce the panel, and you know that. When Marcia and I first came back to Antrim full-time 8 years ago, Mr. Tenney said to me something profound. He said that in a small town, everyone has a responsibility to help meet community needs. Well, we have in front here, people have served on the select board, which to me is the most demanding form of community participation that exists. So we are in collective debt to you, gentlemen, and people know in order of, I don't know what, age, Gordon Weber, Bob Flanders, Ben Pratt, and Eric Tenney.
And I'm the youngest.
And I swear that's the truth. I don't know if you're aware, but select board members have a tendency to, they're very good talkers. So I have tried to impose iron discipline on this crew. And in advance, I sent them out 3 questions, and I've asked them to talk for a maximum of 4 minutes. Those of you who go to the Lions Club candidate debates, when I have this watch that goes off which says stop talking, I'm going to impose this on you guys. I know you will appreciate that. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for your past service, and thank you for coming. And how shall we, Mr. Tenney, do you want to start out with what prompted you to run for office in the first place?
Who, me?
You. Not another Mr.
He doesn't have his hearing aid on.
Well, I got out of the Navy, took over started the farm, changed the farm. And a couple of guys came down. My father refused to be a politician. He was on the planning board for a short time. And tried to get me to run 71, 72, 73, and I kept saying no, no, no. But I knew better, and what the Senate Stephen used is what I honestly feel. I was just trying to get my business set up so I could do it. And I just honestly believe that if you live in a small town, you got to participate, you got to do something. Just don't complain. Because we used to have the town meeting every Saturday morning. This is back in the days when the dump was down on Depot Street. Well, there was always a town meeting down there on Saturday morning. And so I remember people used to come up, and my father would be driving the cows across the road, and they'd visit with him. But he was apolitical that way. But he tried to get people to run, and finally, of course, he passed away. I just decided, okay, it's my turn. It's my generation's turn. That's why I ran. Next.
Wow. 1 minute and 27 seconds. This is Ben.
Well, I can answer that very quickly. I got a phone call from Mike Oldershaw. Bill Prokoff was the selectman who had resigned to take the job as town administrator, and so they needed someone to fill in for his last year. So that was what prompted me, was a phone call from Mike.
Are you still saying?
This,
Is he less than I am?
you know, the flinty, unloquacious Granite State of me. This apparently is Bob, Phil, straight.
I've thought about this, and I'm not sure, maybe there's so much time, but I don't really remember why I ran. I obviously, from going through the history, I know I wanted to run because, like a fool, I ran against Deb Chamberlain. And I think it was something like 250 to 41 or something. So I waited, and then Mr. Wheeler, who was a very nice man, I don't know how many will remember him, but he was on the board of selectmen, and he passed away in February of '65, and so I ran for his one-year term, and that was between several of us. I don't know that I've got it, but anyway, there was Charlie Gilmore and Harry Clow and myself, and I won that, and I served out that 1 year. And I enjoyed that enough, so I ran again for a 3-year term, and Charlie Gilmore beat me by 2 votes. And by finding out, I'm not a person who gets mad, but I'm upset. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law didn't vote. So I kind of went back home again and waited until the next time. And I ran and had a 3-year term. And at some point, I want to explain the difference. Maybe I can take the rest of my minutes to do that.
You certainly can, sir.
Because the difference between what it was in '65 and today is completely different. I want you to all realize that I've moved into town lately, that there was no help in the town hall. 3 selectmen, no secretary, and the town clerk worked out of his house, and the tax collector worked out of his house. So during the week, the town hall was closed. One thing that did happen, and if we had to write a letter, Alice May had I had an office at home, and my wife would type the letter. And one of the things that happened every year is Alice May was secretary to David Hurlin at Goodall Company. So every year, David Hurlin would have Alice May write a letter to the selectmen complaining about the taxes on the parking lot across the road from Goodall Company, where we all go in and turn around and come out. And so we would take the letter, and I would take it home, and Alice May would type a letter back to Bill Hurlin, and we denied it. And that went on for year after year after year. The other thing that happened in those days was we had no town equipment. Had fire trucks, no police cruisers, no town equipment. Everything was rented. You look back in here, you'll find that we spent around $11,000 a year for summer maintenance and around $11,000 a year on winter maintenance, and not even the road agent had a vehicle. Now, this is a story, and I'm getting old enough now so I can tell stories, and there aren't very many people around that can tell me I'm wrong. So I'm going to tell you a story. That the year that Merle Aborn beat Arthur Merrill, there used to be an area down behind the town hall where the town equipment was. And Arthur got some upset when he found out that he got beat, so he went back down and got a torch and just cut the plow right off his truck. Got his truck, went home, left that truck with no way to ever hook onto it for Merle to hook onto. And it was town meeting day, and it was no one to beat the band. So that's one of the histories that go back.
That shed eventually went up in fire, didn't it? That shed out on back and back.
I don't know whether it fell down or burned down, but it's down. The other thing that has happened
I know.
over the years that I'm very much opposed to, and I'll let the selectman who probably, I'm guessing started it, answer it if he wants to. But we never put anything in the budget that was new. I asked you how many here voted for the touring bus that we have for the elderly. Anybody remember voting for that? You know why? Because it was in the budget. How many people remember voting for the plow, the snow blower that goes up and down the sidewalk? Guess what? It was in the budget. Now you go through these old ones, everything except salaries were a warrant article. People will challenge a warrant article, but they don't challenge the budget. So somebody decided, hey, why argue about a pickup truck for the water department? Put it in the budget passes, and they bought it. You say, oh, where'd that come from? So I went to somebody and said, where'd that come from? And I was told, well, it was in the budget. So I'm not talking to something about that I didn't check out. I think this is a bad thing. Now, we have a little camp up in Columbia, New Hampshire. It's a small town. Everything they do is a warrant article. Every bit of money spent is a warrant article. You go through here, you'll find, and I don't know how much time
I got Gordon's. Oh, he's just biting.
Okay,
No,
I
you're
want to
fine,
finish
you're
this
fine.
because there are some other interesting things.
Okay.
You want me-
Why don't you finish up?
What I was gonna say is that, I got to know Merle Avon very well. And I decided before I went on for the 3-year term, that Merle should have a grader. The town should own a grader, because there were times when we rented a grader from Hancock, or we rented a grader from Hillsborough. So in 1965, we did put the article in. And as I look back, I thought it was a great idea then, but now I'm saying, I'm the one that started buying all the equipment for the highway department, so it's my fault. But that was the first piece of equipment that the town bought. So, basically, the difference now of the town hall being closed, we met Monday nights. Every Monday night, Buster Ashford came over, who lived in the big house that burned, the oil dealer that started Rhymes, one truck. That's what Rhymes, and Buster had a heart attack, and Rhymes was in college, and he drove and pumped gas, oil for Buster. Buster came every night because he wanted to know what was going on, and it was his privilege. And we met at this big table, which now Wayno has, and when they did the town hall over, they took this magnificent table. It used to be a Selectman's table, and Wayno bought it at the auction, I believe, and it's in his kitchen. But we met, made our decisions, and one other last thing that we did that doesn't happen anymore. Number one, I don't believe they walk the boundaries anymore. I have walked all of the boundaries in the town of Antrim. I'm a lot younger than I am now, but I walked them. Number two is the, what was number two else?
I don't know. You walked? Did you walk?
No, but I'm gonna say, I'm gonna ask the newer selectmen.
Okay.
Did you ever walk the boundaries?
Yes.
All of
You
them?
weren't the only one.
Did you ever walk them?
No, we hire people to do it now.
See why the difference between the size and 1965 and 07. You hire them.
Yes,
Well, Bruce Cuddy, we always did it during deer season, and Bruce Cuddy, he would bring his rifle. And we'd walk the boundary. He never did shoot a deer.
Mr. Weber.
my father, both my parents volunteered a lot for many years in town, so I kind of grew up with that as, you know, an example. So at some point, you know, I think Eric said it best, is just a responsibility to give back to the town. And I felt that, you know, that time for me had come, so so I ran. And frankly, I had never been to a selectmen's meeting. And I ran, and my very first selectmen's meeting as a selectman was my very first selectman meeting I ever attended in Antrim. So I can't say that I was well prepared, but it was probably one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in Antrim. I really enjoyed it. It was a tremendous learning experience, but I really enjoyed it.
Okay, back to Mr. Tenney. What were your most difficult decisions as a select board member?
There was a lot of them. I think the most important one happens in December and January. You get your school tax rate, and then you prepare your own budget. You look at the town's balance sheet done at the end of the year, see where we are financially, not the last year budget, not the income, the balance sheet, and figure out if you've got guts enough to raise taxes, if you have to. And there's a lot of other little pains and needles, but that's an important one you analyze and try to figure out whether you can afford to do it. And some voters don't seem to get the idea that selectmen overpay taxes themselves when they do this. We're just members of the community like everybody else. If taxes go up or down, it affects us just as much as you. But I think that's the most important, difficult decision you have to make. You know, there's a ton of little ones, but I think that's what you're there for.
Mr. Pratt? Plenty of time for questions from the audience. I did not anticipate this succinctness
On some of it.
on some of them. Mr. Pratt, sir.
Well, I guess the most difficult decisions were regarding finances. One thing that bothered me, I'd considered, or I'd thought about running for selectman previously, but I was concerned that I didn't have a good background in municipal finance. And I was aware of the deficit on my part in that area. And I'd served with Eric for many years on the sewer and water department, and was very appreciative of the capability that he had in that regard that I lacked. And we were, right from the beginning of my first year on the board, we were spending lots of money on new equipment. The town was anxious to have an addition on the library, which was important. But I was on a total of 4 years, and throughout that entire period, I was just concerned about the town getting into financial difficulties, but didn't feel, you know, that I was equipped to deal effectively with that. And I guess as it turned out, my concerns were well-founded, because a little later on, the town did get in great difficulty. And it still bothers me that I wasn't able to be more effective in dealing with what I saw as an oncoming problem. The other thing I was concerned about things that needed doing. Some we still have the water line from the pump across the river and connect to the original system. It was old then, and I was concerned about it. It's even older now, and it concerns me even more. But my concerns really revolved around the finance aspects of the town government.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
Ben and I were, in addition to being selectmen, I also served 15 years with him on the water and sewer department. And want to talk about a luck. When we, just before the water and sewer department got formed, we finally shifted to meters. Before that, the old Antrim precinct judged on how many faucets and blah, blah, blah you had. And when we put the meters on, everybody in every other town told us, your usage is gonna drop. Okay? Because people are gonna be scared of the meters, and what they read. So we had to set rates for the new department. So we added about 40% based on what people told us from Peterborough, Hillsborough, and all the experts. Guess what? The usage never dropped a bit. So in 2 years, we reduced rates 50%. Then we look like heroes.
Senator Flanders.
As far as the most difficult, we didn't have the problems back then, like the wind towers and the water sewer business and so forth. There was nobody to complain to all week long because the town hall was closed. You might get a telephone call at home, several as a matter of fact. But I made, one was that when the Antrim orchestra started, they came to us and asked to rent the town hall. And that was at the time when music was getting a little out as far as the adults were concerned. So the vote was taken and the vote was no. And I was the one that got delegated to tell them. And I realize now that was a big mistake, but it was a hard decision to make. Another mistake that I made was we made out the town budget, and based upon the town budget, it was equal to the year before, so therefore taxes would not go up. And the budget has to be posted at certain places before town meeting. So I took it over to what was Wayno's store at the time, and as I was putting it in the window, I turned and I made the statement, based upon this budget, the taxes in Antrim won't increase. Well, guess what? The school board number came out. And when everything went out, the taxes went up. And a gentleman who heard me never spoke to me again. To the day he died, he never spoke to me again.
What did I say? It's the same thing. They don't pay attention to what the school hammer
That's
said.
right, that's right. But those are some of the decisions. But I wrote down a little statement here that Eric made it. His father was not political. As I remember as being moderator, he was damn political as hell. I don't know how many of you remember, but I remember him. So he was a little political.
Not much.
Oh, I would like to just go back to a couple of statements
Yeah, no worries.
that you made was, you know, going on the Board of Selectmen, you really don't have any idea what you're gonna do. It's a little bit like running for the Senate, believe me. But when I went on, I served with Eb Chamberlain and Bruce Cuddy. And Ed was a Democrat, but it didn't make any difference. He was there for the town of Antrim, and Bruce was a great teacher. And so I learned a great deal in that first year. And as I say, I used to go to the meetings and listen to Frank Wheeler. And then my second full 3-year term, Andy Lane and Bruce Cuddy. And they were just great people to work with us. And we had no problems. We had no problems agreeing on things. So there were not very many difficult. But I think one of the things I wanted to do was when they did the town gym, they made it out of cement blocks and never painted the outside. And so I wanted to paint the outside, and I got the other two to agree, and went out and got the estimates and so forth. So the biggest problem we had, the three of us couldn't agree on what color to paint. So finally I won, and it was painted maroon. Now it doesn't look anything like that now. But those are some of the things that happened, and they were not big problems. And I can't imagine facing, you know, what the selectmen are facing now with the wind and with the highway money up on the new sewer and so forth. I mean, these are projects like we never saw. You know, I think the biggest project we did was the town beach, where I was on the board, and that was mostly paid for by the Lions Club. So,
Mr. Weber?
Well, these other gentlemen have really hit the biggest difficult decision, and that's spending other people's money. And that's basically what your job is, to administer town business. And that primarily is how to spend the money. And while it's 1 tiny percent of your own tax money as an individual, you know, that big chunk of money is other people's money. And it's really important to be responsible and not forget, you know, that responsibility. So when I first became selectman, I looked at the budget, and of course I have said, you know, I had no idea what I was doing. So I looked at the budget and I thought, wow, that's just ridiculous. That's way too big. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to slash the budget. Probably the first politician to ever go into a position and think that. So I got in there, and the first thing I did was I'm going to talk to all the department heads. So my second day as a selectman, I went into the little police station and met with Todd Fair, who was the chief at that point. And I walked into the office, and I just thought,